Oh, man, here we go back with another one.
Yes, sir and ma'am. We are back. And we're back with a special guest. And as we always say, he's the most recent. So he's the most special. We've got a professor. We've got an entrepreneur. And he's here to talk all about entrepreneurship, finances. Some of you guys are trying to get your businesses up. He's going to help y'all with that. We got Senor Aram Chavez. Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Man, I got to have you intro me for everything.
Yeah, right?
How do I hire you guys to come just follow me? You know?
Yeah, man. No
That's
worries.
great.
Yeah, every time you walk into the classroom, we
That's
got,
right.
got Dre over there just,
Right.
just doing the intro.
We got a
over
little
there.
beat that we can do.
There you go.
I like
for sure.
Oh, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
coming, man. Thanks for coming. Let's just dive right into it. Kind of give us a, let us know what you do. What
Yeah.
What you're into.
I'll give you some background. So I'm born and raised here, first off.
Okay.
And how I got into this gig of finance, entrepreneurship, innovation, investing was I was tired of eating beans and tortillas, and I remember at about 11 or 12 years old, my mom said, "Well, do something about it." And so I did everything that everybody else does, mowing lawns, washing cars, and whatnot. And by the time I was about 18, I was reading the Wall Street Journal pretty much every day.
Okay.
And I didn't know what the hell it was, what I was reading really, but I was trying to read it and absorb it. That's what I saw on TV at the time growing up, was wealthy people reading the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
Now there's a lot of different things you can read, but especially online. But I really started to question, how people make real wealth, real money.
Right.
And so I grew up, my mom would say, "Mijo, if you can't afford to pay cash for it, then don't buy it." And so that's the whole, if you remember, back in the day, the Benjamin Franklin, a penny saved is a penny earned.
Right. Yep.
Thematically that. And I thought, well, we don't have any money. And my mom was a teacher, and she raised myself and my sister, and I thought, well, we don't really have a lot, and I like that, but there's got to be another side to the coin.
Right.
And so, reading and just trying to absorb as much as I could, I found out that the other side of the coin, which we've all heard, is it takes money to make money, right?
Course, right.
And so that's the debt side, right? That my mom was, so afraid of. Yeah,
Right.
Don't touch anything that's going to put you in any kind of
Type
trouble.
of harm, yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought, well, there's got to be a balance between the two, because I was starting to learn that a penny saved is a penny earned is good, but it's not going to get you to where you really want to be.
Right.
And then if you start using debt, you can start getting into trouble.
Right.
And so I thought, well, what's that balance? Because I didn't understand money, because I never really had it. Right. And so.
And then, also, the old school way, like you said, the old school way of thinking, right, was save.
That's
So,
right.
I mean, there was money everywhere. There's money in the mattress. There's
Right.
money in the closet.
That's right. Yeah,
True.
yeah.
Yeah, very true.
I had, just to tell you, I had so little money. I mean, I was putting quarters in the gas station, like, hey, I need 48 cents, whatever I got in the truck,
Right.
and that was what I needed to get to, from A to B for that day.
Right.
And but yeah, so when I started thinking about, okay, it takes money to make money, and a penny saved and a penny, what's that balance? And what I discovered was that when you're borrowing money, and we don't look at a credit card as borrowing money, but we are.
It is. Right.
We're borrowing money, somebody's money, and they're fronting it to us, right? That's what they're doing, and they want you to take all of it. That's the problem.
Right.
And so what I started thinking about was, well, okay, what's the problem here with this debt side that my mom's so afraid of, and that we just went over. And so I thought, well, the solution is just to not not take on any debt if it's not going to make you money.
Right.
So, you know, the most, as we say in the academic world, the most efficient use of capital, right?
Okay.
The reality of it is the best use of capital, best use of the money is to really invest it in things that are going to make you money.
Right.
Not those, you know, not the newest you know, shoes or the car or whatever. That stuff makes you look good on the outside, but you're cash poor on the inside, right? And I don't, and I was always cash poor, so I
Right.
so I didn't want to be in that cycle.
Right.
I didn't want to be in that cycle.
Understandably.
So I applied for a job as a clerk at an investment banking firm in 1992, 93.
Okay.
And they didn't hire me.
Okay.
But I showed up on Monday anyways. And they were like, I think we're going to have to call security. And I said, no. I've been reading about investment banking. I didn't really even know what it is, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But I've been reading about this for 5 or 6 years. And I'm willing to clerk for you. I'll do it for free. And that's what I told them. Is I said I'd do it for free. And so they stuck me with the lawyers because they knew that nobody could hang out with the lawyers for very long, right? I mean, it's, you know, reading those documents,
right?
You know, you either fall asleep or you want to kill yourself, one of the two, you know.
Right.
And so after a couple of weeks, they said, well, we're gonna have to pay you if you're gonna stay.
So they stuck you with the lawyers and you fought it out.
Yeah.
And they were like, man, he's still here.
Yeah,
I get. We gotta give him something, right? Like,
or else it's like, you know, indentured servitude.
Right,
you know?
right.
You can't not pay, or some labor law, right?
Right. All right.
So they stuck me with the lawyers in an investment banking firm. And an investment banking firm, what they do is they go out and they find startups. They find entrepreneurial type businesses, and then they fund them, and they start giving them money, and then they do, and then they take that money. The entrepreneurs take that money and they grow the business, and then 6 months later they give them more money, and they keep monitoring and maximizing their growth, if you will, right?
Okay.
And then they take them public. And that's the end game, is to take a company public, get them out there so that they're running out of there on their own. And that's the exit strategy also, right? So when they're funding them when they're private, the only way they get their money out is if they're public, and then they can sell the stock to the open market.
Okay.
Right.
So it sounds complicated, and it's not really that complicated. But after about a year and a half of me wanting to every day quit, every single day. I wanted, and it wasn't just once a day. It was before I was driving to work. It was getting up in the morning. It was all day I wanted to quit. And
why did you want to quit though?
What's that?
Why did you want to quit?
Because it was terrible stuff. I mean, you're reading, and I'm you know, you're changing the word and to the, or, you know, I mean,
just really tedious.
Heretofore, therefore shall we not. I mean, all this legal jumbo and stuff was insane.
Right.
Just reading that every day. And but what I didn't realize is that I was reading about the dotting the I's and the dotting of the I's and crossing the T's type language of structure.
Right.
And so after a year and a half of this, I didn't realize how much I actually learned.
Right.
And so if you remember, you guys don't remember, you're not old enough. What am I talking about here? So, but in 92, 93, the U.S. economy started to explode. And this investment banking firm that I was with was looking for more talent. And they were like, well, who knows structure? And they're like, hey, don't we have some guy like in the basement, you know, Chavez down there that knows structure? Bring him up here and see if he's still, is he still here?
Right. Right. Can we put an APB out on this guy? Where's he at?
That's right. So they called me up, and I thought they were going to try to fire me again, at which point I was going to say, you win. But they said, look, we want to bring you into the investment side, structure, and we need more deals. And so we want to bring you into the investment side. And so one of the first investments that I did together, and I was junior muscle at the time, was a company called Wholesome and Hearty Foods, and they made the Garden Burger.
Okay.
So the Garden Burger was my first deal out there, out of the gates. And then my second deal was more of a syndicated deal. There was another firm that was underwriting a company called Mobile Mini.
Okay.
And you see their containers all around.
Yep.
And so my career just continued in that vein, and by the end of it, I had underwritten and been funding and financing, dozens of companies.
Okay.
One of them was, and this is the one where I was more of the senior muscle, and one that I'm really proud of, which was Zicam. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Zicam. It's a nasal cold spray. You can buy it in any grocery
Yeah, that's right.
in the country. And I funded that on 7th Street in Watson.
That's
a 30,000 square foot empty warehouse, and there was a crazy and brilliant scientist that invented that, and I funded.
Was his name Emmett Brown?
No.
I don't know.
But
I just went there.
but just and so then in 1999, I decided that the markets took a dive. And I decided, you know what, it's time for me to take my money off the table and do something else. And I tried to do some other things. I thought about real estate. I thought about we're a big real estate town here.
I was going to say, like, that's almost like the number one go-to is like everybody that wants to kind of get their money getting up going. They go to real estate, and then they bring their friends, and now everybody's in real estate, right?
And I just didn't. It wasn't for me. I was used to the hair running on fire entrepreneur mentality, and I loved that. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go back to that.
Okay.
And so I started funding and financing with my own capital, and then next thing you know, I'm pooling some of my investors that I had, back in the day. And we started funding and financing more companies again. But this time, instead of taking them public, the exit strategy was to just harvest those dividends, harvest that cash flow.
Right.
And so the idea was, if you can imagine, say 10 companies, and they're all at different stages, and you own a minority piece. So you're not the king, you're the kingmaker. And that's what I was, and that's what I still am today. I'm really more of the kingmaker. I have a couple of my own businesses, but I own a piece of, let's say, all these 10, and some of them are throwing off a lot of cash. Some of them aren't throwing off any cash, and they're just growing. They're trying to get to that point. And so that way you've got several sources of income coming in at the same time.
Right.
And I guess the analogy of that would be houses, right? So people try to buy 10 houses.
Right.
And then they get the rent. And they, the rent's a little different in all of them. And it's the same thing except for with companies.
Okay.
And but I think it's a hell of a lot more exciting.
So when you got out and then you decided, look, real estate's not working. I got to get back into this thing. I got to get back into investing. And you said you brought, some old buddies that, so you guys were doing this like independently.
Yes.
You guys were it wasn't a company that you had. It was like, let's get together and let's all try to find something we could all invest into.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
dope.
And it was
that's dope.
And there's so many startups in Arizona, in Phoenix, and the Phoenix area. There's so many entrepreneurs, and a lot of them just don't know the next step. And so then in by 2008, I had 11 or 12 interests in different companies of all different sizes. And then what happens in 2008?
Boom.
The whole market, the hammer comes down.
Yeah. Right.
Everything. So at this time I'm married, and I'm seeing my investments, just like people are seeing their real estate, And so there are 11 companies, and I'm thinking, okay, I can't save them all.
Right.
But I got to save some of them.
Right.
And so I went to every single one of my investors. Some of them, ridiculous net worth. Some of them just, the amount of money they have was ridiculous. And I'd made good money for them in the 90s. And they had been partnering with me in the 2000s. And so I'd built my reputation and we'd done well. And, but it 2008, the Black Swan, we call it a Black Swan, landed on our economy. And it wasn't going to get off. And people didn't know when. And so I went back to all my investors and I said, look, there's 8 of them, 8 of these companies that we got to keep alive.
Right.
There's these 3. I mean, I want to, but I just don't have enough food on the table.
Right.
And these ones, they're going to starve, but they're going to live. We're going to survive.
Okay.
Every single one of them. No, Chavez, we can't. We don't know how long. When is this going to end?
Right.
And they would ask me, when's it going to end? I have no idea, man. I mean, I can't predict the future.
Right.
But I can tell you what we need to do, or we lose our capital. And so they all backed out on me, every one of them.
Wow.
And so I decided those 8 were going to be. I'm gonna try to feed those companies, and so I did. So for a few years, I was just feeding them. And my philosophy, my theory was, if I can keep them alive, by the time the market comes back, and I didn't know if that was 10 years, I didn't know if that was 2 years.
Right.
If I can keep them alive, then by the time the market comes back, they'll be in a position, they'll pop up again.
Right.
And everybody was so afraid of doing anything. And I have a theory, it's a sidebar here, but that's when all the zombie movies started coming out. Nobody wanted to move,
Right.
And so everybody wanted just to watch zombie movies, and that's kind of the way the markets work. and so I kept these companies alive, and my wife's like, "Are you serious? Wait a minute, And
Right.
And so 2010, 2011, things start, breaking out, in terms of the economy starting to break out again a little bit. 2012, 2013, things start moving. And that's really what allowed me, by 2011, I was able to exit a couple of these. On a few of the others, the cash flow was coming in a lot stronger because they did survive, and they were now pushing, and there weren't a lot of companies trying to get into the space because everyone was still kind of sitting on their hands.
Right.
But everyone was trying to get out, but nobody really wanted to be the first mover.
Right. Right.
Everybody got burned,
Yeah.
And so from 2008 to 2011, man, my life was every week was payroll, because some of these companies, the payroll, it's every 2 weeks, right? But some of them were this week, the next one was that week. So every week it was trying to keep these companies alive.
So when you're going through this process, right? And I actually have 2 questions for you. First is, well, we'll get back to that. Just right now, when you're going through that process, and you went to your fellow investors, and everybody's freaking out. Everybody's saying, "I don't want any parts of it." You dug in and said, "This is what I'm going to do. This is my game plan." Was there any moment between 2008 and 2011 where you're like, you know what? I made the wrong decision. Maybe I need to get out while I'm a little bit ahead.
Every day.
Okay.
Every day I was questioning myself. And I think if you don't question yourself, I think you're a little too, you're going to get burned by something else. So even if you survive that, something else is going to get you, because you gotta question it.
What made you keep going?
It's always, and this is the difference between, I think, real estate and investing into companies. It's always the people.
Gotcha.
And so I've invested into some wicked technologies and lost my ass. And I've invested into some really plain Jane, not sexy stuff at all, and have hit a home run or a grand slam. And it's because of the people. So, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm qualified to even be here today. And I thank you guys for inviting me again. But, I've cried in my pillow, and that's part of the gig. If you're going to get into entrepreneurship or investing, you're gonna cry in your pillow, and you're gonna get some scar tissue,
right?
And that's really it. And so by 2010, 11, I started to get a couple of exits. 2012, actually 2011, I thought, I'm in a position now where I need to start thinking about transferring what I know to the next generation. So I started teaching at Chandler Gilbert Community College.
Okay.
And I wanted to teach them, hey, look, we're just coming out of this terrible crisis. The last crisis of this magnitude was 1929. You're young, and I'm going to teach you how to roll.
Right.
And so I did that for about a year, and then ASU came and they asked me to teach full-time faculty, and I was like, I mean, it maybe be too much time. I don't know if I have the time. I don't know. I'm teaching 1 or 2 classes at the community college.
Right.
I like that.
Kind of works my schedule.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
And so, we came up with an agreement, and the agreement was that I was going to teach in the engineering school, not in the business school. And so they were like, well, wait a minute, entrepreneurship is really taught in the business school, in every school in the world. And I said, well, I think everybody's got it wrong, because you want to teach the people who make shit how to become entrepreneurs.
That's
a fact.
That is fast. That's really good, man. I like that.
And so they let me.
We need a DJ bomb from one of those, man. That is a fact. That's a great point. Go ahead.
So they let me go into the Fulton Schools of Engineering and help build a program that was already started. It was an entrepreneurship program, and we started I started to figure out, well, what is it that you guys are doing? And I'm really excited to be here. And I was telling them, and so the first question I had was, okay, what are you teaching? And they like everyone, we teach how to pitch. We teach the business model canvas. We teach the lean launch. I mean, all the things that you can just source out there online. And I said, okay, well, that's cool. But okay, what order? In what order? And they said, well, what do you mean, what order? And I said, I don't know. Well, what do you mean? What do I mean in what order? I mean, there's every discipline in school, whether you're in the 3rd grade learning math,
right?
The teachers have a process. There's an order,
right?
And so I said, well, there's got to be a startup map, an entrepreneurship map.
Right.
I've been doing this for a while. I know that I follow a map, my point of compass, and every company I invest into, I set them straight. And this is how this is the direction you're gonna head into. This is your exit, but to get there, this is the direction we're going.
Right.
And so they said, well, there's no such thing, Chavez, as a map, as a startup map. There's no such thing as a step-by-step process for innovators to become entrepreneurs. And I was like, yes, there is. And so I contacted Harvard, Stanford, UCLA. I contacted all the universities out there, and I said, hey, can you guys have a startup map, and can I borrow it? We'll license it at ASU. We'll do whatever. Or do you have anything? What can I take? And everyone said, there's no map. There's no map.
Why do you think that is?
Because academics aren't used to crying in their pill. None of them have deployed their own capital. None of them have their own business.
Right.
So they're regurgitating shit from somebody else.
Right.
And if you've got a PhD in entrepreneurship, then you haven't been doing entrepreurship. Right. So if you actually went to school to get,
Yeah, so, you've been spending way too much time at school.
Exactly. And so I was like, I was appalled first. Number one,
that is crazy.
Kind of just like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense at all. And so I thought, well, and then the VCs, venture capitalists, and angel investors, there's not enough money in academics for them to go into academics.
Right.
So I was lucky in that I wanted to transfer what I was learning to the next generation, or what I had learned and all of my scars. And so I literally sat down one day. It took me about half an hour, and I created the world's first startup map called Aha to Exit. And we use it at ASU. And what people want is they want answers. It doesn't matter what your product or services, they want to know what the next step, what am I doing next? And what am I doing next? And, and they want to see if you can give them a whole map. But what we teach, this is in any, whether it be at a community college, a major university, or just the city that you live in that they're giving you material, or you're watching Shark Tank, right? Is they say, here's all this stuff, and throw it against the wall and hope that it works out for you. That's how entrepreneurship is. That's how small businesses work today. And that's just not good. That was never good enough for me.
Right.
So the AHA to Exit map is a step-by-step map. It's 10 steps, and it's real easy. I mean, there's nothing crazy about it. I'm one of those guys that if it gets complicated, I back out. I'm out. Yeah. If I don't understand it, I got a simple mind. If I don't understand it, you could have the greatest invention in the world, but if I don't understand it, I got to back.
It's too hard to use, right?
So your map that you have, is it accessible to everybody?
Yes, yeah.
So anybody can get it?
Anybody can get it.
Can you plug that real quick?
AHAtoexit.com. AHAtoexit.com.
Okay. So that way people can look at it.
That's
and at least see and read for themselves.
Yes.
What the strategy that you have.
And so out. Not only is it good for, we'll call them innovators, the idea people, the people that we always driving, thinking about why don't they do this? Why don't they come up? Why don't they invent that? Well, the map will take you to that next step. So you're like, oh, okay, well, they is me,
right?
So I'm gonna do this next and this next and this next, and then you can actually execute to it.
That's dope.
But what's really I didn't find this out. I didn't intend it to be this way. What really surprised me was I would get small businesses that would call me and say, "Hey, I'm having some trouble. We're making a lot of money, but we're not keeping any money, and I'm burning too much money. We're losing money, and so I had this one restaurant call me, it was a Mexican restaurant in Mesa, and the guy told me that he makes a lot of money every week, but by the end of every month he doesn't have anything to show for it. And so I'm usually pretty quick to figure out what's going on. And we looked at the map, and he is the one he made me look really great. He goes, "Oh, I'm here. I'm on step 5." And I go, "Oh yeah, you're on step 5." Yeah. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, all the things that I skipped."
Oh wow.
On 4, on 3, and 2, and I go, exactly. And so I got a great free meal out of it. But that's so for small businesses that are having trouble trying to get to that next level. That next step, if you haven't done the basics, some of the basic blocking and tackling, then it's hard to get to that next step.
Right. I want to talk about the map, but real quick, I want to just ask you, do you find, because you see a lot of students that come through, obviously, that come maybe fresh out of high school or even a couple years later or whatever, that we as a country are not teaching finances really well to kids?
Yeah, and that's the whole money thing that we talked about at the beginning. People, and I didn't grow up with money, so I didn't understand money.
Right.
I thought money was something that you hid under your pillow, or that you put in your sock
and your shoebox.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And to me, money was what you had in your wallet.
Right.
If you didn't have anything in your wallet, then you didn't have any money. And that was kind of in its simplicity, in its own simple, my own simple mind at that point. That's what it was. And so. So again, a penny saved. Let's simplify money for everyone out there. It's a penny saved is a penny earned, and it's also leverage. So if you debt, and debt is what makes the world go round. It's not the stock market, although that's what I'm investing into in terms of companies, and I want them to go public. Debt is what makes the world go round. Think of interest rates.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, interest rates are what we pay. That's the cost of money. It's the cost of capital. And when the market goes crazy, it's because interest rates are doing something.
Fluctuating. Yeah.
So there, it's reactive, right? So
Right.
the stock market's reactive to the debt market. But let's look at it like this. Let's say hypothetically somebody had they wanted to buy a car and they had 10 grand, and the car was 10 grand. You know, you don't want to spend all of your money on
Burn
that,
all your 10
right?
grand,
Because
right.
then you got
Now
all
you
your
have
money
nothing.
tied up in that car,
Right.
right? So, and it's a depreciating asset,
Right.
But it's okay to put a couple grand down, and then have a payment, and then the 8 that you've got, you can invest it or you can work with it in some other way,
Right.
and that's where debt is, because you need the car to get to work,
Right.
Right.
So is that an investment in a way? It depreciates, but yes, because it's getting you A to B.
Right.
So we're not teaching the basics of,
Yes.
you know, but what's crazy is all these credit card companies want everyone who doesn't know the basics
to have a credit
to have a
card.
credit card,
Yeah.
and a lot of it.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know?
yeah.
And
We'll give you a couple thousand out the gate.
that's right. That's right. And
You don't have no credit. Here you go.
and then you never get out from underneath that rock.
Right. Right.
You never get out from underneath that rock. So the simple philosophy is, you know, use debt only when you're going to expect a return.
Okay.
That's it. Use debt when you're expecting a return. Now, you know, I'm now at a different point in my life than I was when I was younger. So I use a credit card for lunch, and I use it for shopping and stuff. But and I use it for luxury things, right?
Right.
But I have that cash
Right.
behind me to buy and pay
Yeah.
it off every month.
Gotcha.
It's when you can't pay it off every month, you know, those credit card rates are 25, 28,
yeah.
32% or whatever. And you're paying that every month.
Oh yeah, it's on top of whatever your minimum payment is.
Yeah, they keep adding it. So if you can't pay, and this is the other part of that, if you can't pay that credit card off every month, then you know you shouldn't be buying whatever it is.
Right.
Right.
You know, and so my mom, you know, the mijo, hey, don't pay for it unless you can pay cash. That works, but to a point.
Right.
You've got to leverage some credit card debt if you can make money on it.
Right. Right.
You know,
I got a question going back to investments, and this I was going to ask you earlier. You know, how do you find the companies? How do you search for the companies, right? Because you're looking for these companies, but where do you find them? How do you find them? How do you make the decision? You know, I'm going to go with, maybe you have two companies that are similar. How I'm going to go with this one over this one, right? Like,
yeah. You know,
how do you do that? What's the process?
So let's back into that. That's a great question. First off, I just want to say that Arizona is wedged between two incredible economies. We have California, which, regardless of what people say, it's it's this and that, and there's a lot of negative stuff floating around California. They're still the 4th largest economy in the world.
Right.
If they were their own country, it's the 4th largest economy in the world.
Right.
And then you have Mexico. And what does Mexico have? Mexico has low cost labor, and they have a lot of resources. They have a lot of stuff. And so small businesses in Arizona are not only having to serve our local ecosystem with whatever they make, but they're also having to serve California. We're the only place probably geographically in the world that I think is, I can't imagine, like if I lived on the moon and I'm doing my research, I would come straight to Phoenix.
Really?
Oh yeah, because these small businesses are making money on the local side, and they're making money exporting to California. And I say exporting, but it's just a few hours away.
Right.
But now imagine you're in Omaha. You're just serving Omaha.
Right.
You know, you're not
Right.
serving. There's no, you know, even though Texas has pockets, you know, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. It's not the whole state. I mean, California, it's almost the whole state.
You're right.
Right. Yeah.
They're killing it.
At least a large part of the southern part, and then now obviously the northern part of California is through the roof. Right.
Exactly. And so number one, knowing the ecosystem, and that it's ripe with dozens and dozens and dozens of really great small businesses.
Right.
And again, they have 2 revenue streams, not just one. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
The second is I really like low tech, because in Arizona we don't have a lot of high tech, and you have to be somewhat. The word that we'll use is agnostic. You can't be picky. If you lived in Silicon Valley, you could be all tech all day,
right?
And not and you could even narrow it within tech to to some kind of other tech, right? AI or whatever.
So many options.
Yeah, you can narrow, and you could say I'm not touching anything else.
Right.
In Arizona, there are so many different types of small businesses. You can't say I'm only going this way. You've got to keep your eyes open
for anything.
And so then I really just look for companies that are servicing both Arizona and California.
Okay.
And I've been known, and this is the key here. How many of you have been driving around and you see maybe a murdered out Escalade, and on the back of it, the license plate, it starts with a CF or a CH.
Yeah.
It's a commercial vehicle.
Right.
So some business owner has decided that their commercial vehicle is going to be a murdered out Escalade, so they could drive that every day.
Right.
And that's the business that I want to buy, because even though they are inefficient, they're making money despite themselves. So what they've done is they have taken the corporate money and they decided to live a lifestyle. And so when we come in and we want to buy a piece or buy the whole thing, we take that company and we get rid of all that fat. We're not buying that, that RV that's parked out there, or the murdered out Escalade. And those are the companies, the inefficiencies, despite themselves, are making money. And so I've been known to follow these cars, a Mercedes or something, and I'm like, that's a corporate vehicle? I don't think so. I'm following this cat. And in Arizona, what's also interesting is that when it comes to lower tech, their kids, the owners they don't want to go into mom and dad's shop or garage floor.
Right.
They don't want to touch that. They're too good for that.
Right.
They lived a privileged life, but mom and dad are making good money, and so these parents, they have no succession plan.
Right.
So you come in, and they've been doing this for 20 years, and there's nobody else out there really wanting to buy them, and they want to get out of it. They're tired of working 78 hours a week.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of these companies that are willing to sell, and really all you need is the last 2 or 3 years of tax returns. If they'll open up the kimono to you and give you those finances, and you take them to the bank, you can acquire that company, and you don't need to acquire it with all your cash. So it's Arizona is such an exciting place. People have no idea. I think everybody thinks we're just a real estate town.
It seems like it right now, especially.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I did want to ask you, why do you think, as far as small businesses go, and this has really bothered me, because I'm from California. So in California, you see small businesses everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are, what city you're in, suburbs, it doesn't matter. There's small businesses everywhere. Why aren't we seeing more small businesses integrated within these newer communities, i.e. where I'm at now, Chandler, Gilbert, you don't see a lot of, you just see the same old black and white commercials. We're going to put a Jack in the Box and a McDonald's and a Starbucks and a blah, 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 and all on the same corner. Or
they're just building tons of houses like Gilbert.
Right.
Gilbert's a bedroom community. you know,
Right.
and you know, they don't have the big businesses or the small businesses to account. That's why Gilbert's taxes, and I used to live in Gilbert, which is why I know. I moved out of Gilbert because of the taxes.
Okay.
Because they tax the homeowner because they don't have the, just to your point, they don't have the small business tax revenue coming in.
Got you.
Chandler's the other side of that, though. So Chandler has a ton of businesses, and the taxes are lower. And because they're getting tax revenue from all these businesses, small and big. I think it's because we're so focused on real estate. It kills me that that's what we live and die by here.
Got you.
And
We just need to lease the space.
yes, yeah, we just and we need to get the municipalities to start teaching step-by-step entrepreneurship, because the days of going to work and, you know, working at say an Intel for 30 years and getting a gold watch on your retirement, those are long gone. Long
Yep,
gone.
yep.
And so we need, in my opinion, I think every individual needs 3 or 4 different sources of income.
I agree.
Not just one. You need 3 or 4 sources of income.
I agree.
And that's entrepreneurship. I have another business. I have 2 businesses that I run. One is a digital marketing company, and we have 10 full-time employees. It took us, 5 years to become an overnight success, but it finally happened.
Right. Right.
And that's a pretty,
I love that.
it's a pretty serious business. We got a lot of customers, but then I have something, and I want to make sure that the listeners understand, you don't have to make money with really serious shit.
Right.
Like, you don't have to have the Internet of Things and some artificial intelligence or machine learning that's going to change the world.
Right. Right.
The other business that I have that I love is I make gnomes in culture. I know it sounds crazy, but here's what it is. My wife's family is really into gnomes. They're German.
Okay.
And they always freak me out. Being a Mexican guy, I was like, what is
Right.
that?
And that's a troll. What is that?
And I remember going to her house one time when we first met, and they had a gnome door next to the door. And I was like, what is going on here? These people are crazy, and they had gnomes everywhere. And I was always just looking around like, I wonder if they come alive at night,
Right.
And so anyways, I may or may not have had too much to drink one night, but we were at a Mexican restaurant in Chandler called El Zocalo, and it's a really good Mexican restaurant.
Okay.
In the back is a green patio, and I told my wife, I said, you know what they should have out here? They should have gnomes. And she said, okay, whatever. And I said, no, wait, we're at a Mexican restaurant, and I'm of Mexican descent. They should have Mexican gnomes. And she said, there's no such thing. And I was naturally, I was offended. And I'm like, how can there be no such thing as a Mexican gnome?
Right.
So I said, there's going to be a Mexican gnome now. I'm going to invent the first Mexican gnome. And she said, well, what are you going to call it? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, why don't you call it a nombre? And gnome and ombre together. And I said,
so genius.
oh my God, let's
so
do it.
Fire.
That's so genius.
So
I love
I had somebody illustrate it with me, put a big sombrero, mariachi pants.
That is so fire.
And then I launched it on Kickstarter.
That is so dope.
And then the next one was a shalom gnome, or Jewish gnome.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a gnome heart, which is our garden warrior.
Okay.
We've got a ninja gnome or Japanese gnome. We're coming up. Our next one is an Om gnome. That's going to be released pretty soon. But I went to a trade show one time, a tool trade show in Vegas, and a guy came up to me, and he said, well, "What does it do?" And I said, "Well, nothing." And he's looking at it, and he got a big smile, and he said, "I'll take one." And I said, "That's what it does.
Yes.
It gives you a smile."
That's it.
That's what it does.
So for your listeners, it doesn't have to be anything serious. If it's just a gap, just look for gaps in the marketplace. Look for little gaps. And so what I had found out later was over 200 years that gnomes had been made, they're always, with red pointy hats and they're white guys. there was never any gnomes of different color, different cultures, and so it's a hokey little business, but it's a business,
right?
And we sell pallets of these gnomes every month.
That is crazy.
That's
That is
awesome.
so fire.
That
is fire.
It's crazy. So,
That's a
and your
dope
listeners
story.
can check them out on Nomigos.com.
Nice.
Nomigos.com.
Nice.
So
I think I might be checking that out.
it's a fun. I'll bring you guys one. I should have brought them today.
Yeah, man, that's dope.
I wanted to kind of go back. You said about 5 years overnight success.
Yes.
Right.
I love that.
Do you find that people don't give enough time to idea, a business, because a lot of people, especially this day and age, want something immediate overnight, which could happen possibly.
And we always talk about you gotta let it marinate. You
Yeah.
gotta let it marinate. Go ahead.
Do you find a lot of people give up like just after like a year or something like that, and they just don't give it enough time to grow?
And the
breathe?
thing about it is, my job, and this is part of the Aha Exit Map, but my job is to get you out of the startup as quickly as possible, because a startup is not a business. A startup is looking for a scalable and a repeatable model.
Right.
That's what you're looking for. And so my job is to get you out of that as quickly as possible. So that means that you got to start generating revenue as quickly as possible. But you might not be making any money in terms of, you may be underwater. Your revenue might be here and your expenses are here. And you do, like you said, Dre, you got to let it marinate. And at some point, you're going to start seeing this. And then boom, right here, you got break even. And then you're going to, and then it might take it a while, but then you'll start seeing this. And now you're profits. Now you got profits.
Okay.
And so it takes a little bit of time, but you've got to start, and this is what I tell everyone, not to sound greedy or anything, but you got to start generating revenue as quickly as possible.
Right.
And then once you start generating revenue, then you can let it marinate, and you'll get better and better at it. And I tell all my, it doesn't matter what startup it is, oh, you're an engineer, you're in sales now. Oh no, I don't. No, yeah, you're in sales.
Right.
Everyone's in sales now.
Right.
And then I have some students that say, oh, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be the CEO of whatever. Oh, great. So you're going to be in sales. Well, no. I said, what do you think a CEO does? The CEO is the best salesman,
Right.
of the company.
He's the king salesman.
That's right. Yeah.
That's why he has a job.
He or she is going to be the king or queen
Right.
of the sales, and that's where I think people I think they don't want to sell because they think of maybe a car salesman or something, and I'm like,
Right.
hey, look, if you're going to have 2 or 3 side hustles, you're going to have to sell.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean be cheesy.
Right.
It means be authentic.
Right.
It doesn't mean lie. It means tell the truth. Tell people that you're a startup and that you're just trying to, but you've got a great product or a great service and you're just trying to get this off the ground. And, people will say, you know what? Okay, we'll test you out. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And that's how, but everybody has got to be in sales. I can't tell you how many engineers, well, I'm not in sales. I don't want to do sales. Well, then guess what? I mean, you're not going to be in business.
Right.
So you have to let it marinate, but you got to start getting into the sales first. And don't worry about the everybody wants to be efficient, right? And I tell them, look, that's great when you're making good money. But when you don't have a lot of revenue, you don't have a lot of sales coming in, you've got to work on more sales, because anything other than that is taking away from sales.
Right.
So don't worry about being inefficient. Worry about getting this to break even.
Right.
And one more thing that I just want to say here on that topic is, in academics, we talk about economics and supply and demand, right? And that economics, everybody knows, it's all about supply and demand.
Right.
And I'd always think, well, these economists that are predicting the future and they have all these models, why aren't they billionaires? There's not any. I don't know any economist that's wealthy even.
Right.
And so their whole model of equilibrium, where supply and demand and I remember in going to community college, I went to MCC, Mesa Community College back in the day. In my first year, I remember them giving us the ice cream example. Okay, so in June, if you make 10 ice cream cones at this price, then you'll be close to equilibrium. But if you make 9, then you can charge more, and bam, you'll have the exact amount of ice cream that you're not going to waste any ice cream. You're not going to have any left over, and you're perfect equilibrium. And that's where they want us to be in business.
Okay.
They want the exact amount of customers, kind of that and you fulfill the exact amount of demand. That way you're not spending any more money, but that's
right.
That's all bullshit. What we want, and what I tell my students, is we want disequilibrium, not equilibrium. We want more demand than there is supply. Think of Ferrari. Everyone wants a Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be on a list to get a brand new Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
And you had better have owned a Ferrari before to get on that list.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take you 6 months to a year to get a new Ferrari if you want to be on. And so Ferrari makes 8,000 cars a year, and they do $8 billion in revenue a year. They figured out supply and demand in the real world, which is disequilibrium. We want more demand, and so because there's more demand than there is supply, what happens to the price?
Right.
Mm-hmm. A brand new Ferrari is going to be $350 plus.
Right.
And they're not worried about, mass marketing these cars, right?
No.
And so that's what I want all the listeners to understand, is that when you start a business, if you're not charging a premium, you're going to go out of business.
So how many Ferraris do you have right now?
None. No. It's just it's too inefficient. It's too inefficient. But I didn't bring the Porsche, but I am a Porsche guy.
Nice.
And I brought my truck today though.
Nice.
But I will tell you that premium pricing is what every entrepreneur, every startup, that's where they need to be focused, because when they go down in price, and this is what everybody wants to do. They think,
so yeah, it's great point.
I've got a better widget, I got a better service, I got a better product than the brand name, and the brand name's out there. And if I just come under, I'm going to undercut them, and people are going to take my product over theirs, and I'm going to take market share. And that doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because nobody's ever heard of your brand. When you go to a grocery store and you see something that's less expensive than the brand name, you think cheap.
Yeah.
Right? It could be a better product, but they're not branding it properly. And so if you go high, then people might say, well, why is this product or service more expensive than the brand name? And maybe I'll try it out.
Right.
And so so that way you're building a premium reputation, a premium brand.
Makes a lot of sense.
And you're not competing with the brands out there.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're not competing with the low cost, we call them fast moving consumer goods, the FMCGs. You're not competing with the Chinese goods that are just, there to,
right.
They're going to break in 2 weeks kind of a thing.
Right.
So you got to go premium. You got to be Ferrari. That's what you got to do. You got to be Ferrari. And do they make a great car? It's debatable, right? But do they sell the hell out of their cars?
Yeah,
for
sure do. Yeah,
for sure.
So, one quick question: where do people get stuck the most in that map?
Okay,
because I want to touch on that.
Yeah,
this
let's
map
get back
real
to the
quick,
map. Yeah,
because
yeah. So,
I feel like you know, because everybody has the aha moment. I feel like everybody has some kind of idea.
I do want to jump in. I love that because I've asked people
on this show,
not, you know, separate from business, like what was your aha moment? What was your the thing that you was like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm at. So I just want to say I love that. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's perfect. Yeah, we gotta have them all.
Yeah, no, and so it's a great question, and this is what happens. People go up their aha moment. They come up with it, and then they go straight to the prototype. They go straight to trying to build it, the service, whether that be the app or whatever. They go straight to that. They haven't, this sounds a little academic, but it's not. They haven't created a vision statement, not a mission statement, a vision statement. So let me tell you, Nike. When Nike was way back in the day, before Phil Knight,
right,
and the guy who actually invented, I forgot his name, but they, you know, he tried to sell his shoes to Reebok and Adidas, and basically what he did is he put rubber in a waffle machine, and then melted the rubber, and then cut it out, and then tried to sell it to Nike and Reebok and whoever else was out there. And you know what they told him? They said, wait a minute. Humans have been around for thousands of years. We've never needed traction before. Why would we need anything with traction now?
So funny.
So it pissed him off enough, and he didn't have nobody believed in his company,
right,
that he had to form Nike and create Nike on his own. And his vision statement was 6 words, and it's not elegant and it's not eloquent, but it is internally, this is what it is today. We will put Adidas out of business. To put Adidas out of business. That's it. 7 words maybe. And that's the vision, that's the war, that's where Nike, and that's why Nike is what Nike is today. Not because they wanted to, you know, change the world and, you know, have, and if you look at their vision statement and their mission statement today online, it says fluffy stuff like that.
Right.
But internally, I'm going to tell you, it's a eat what we kill kind of mentality.
Right.
And so all of so that's the first step after your aha moment. Before you even get to your prototype, where's the point of compass? Where am I going? And so everyone that has a small business or a startup should come up with a less than 10-word vision statement. And I'm going to tell you, less than 10 words, and that's everyone's homework assignment, by the way. You too, also.
Yeah, for sure.
It's harder to do that than it is to write a paragraph.
Oh, geez.
We can come up with a paragraph, but 10 words or less.
For sure.
You know, it's hard, and because it's got to be actionable.
Well, you remember when Twitter was like 15 words, and people were like,
"Yeah, right."
They're like, "Okay, we'll give you 40. Like, you should be good with 40. Like, you know, it's tough. That's a tough thing to do."
Yeah. So that's exactly right. So 10 words or less. That's the point that you're marching towards,
okay.
and then you can start bringing on partners, because then they'll know, hey, you know, a gnome in culture, where are you guys going? Well, we're going to animation. You know, we're going to, you know, and that's where we're going with you know, gnomes in culture and animation, and that's my vision statement.
That's dope.
And so with that business, but everyone needs to have a vision statement. So they immediately go right off the tracks, because they're thinking, I've got to build my app out, or I've got to build my prototype, my minimum viable product, or I've got, and so they go right to step 4.
Right.
The next step is you really just need to do some research.
Okay.
You got to do some research. You've got to find out, and by research, I mean GTS. Google that shit.
Okay, there you go.
Google that shit, right? GTS it. Right?
Yeah,
that's what I tell my students. Yeah. GTS it. Wow. I at school I just say GTS.
Right.
They get it, right? But here I can be a little more free. But GTS it, and all I want you to do here is find a gap or a pain in the marketplace. A gap. Now, see, with the gnomes, there's no there's no pain. It's not like people were dying for you know, a gnome with a sombrero, right?
Right.
But there's a gap. Right? Now with a digital marketing company, or let's take Footprint. You know, Footprint is the Footprint Center is named after Footprint now. FootprintUS.com. They make products that are replacing plastic.
Okay.
Plastic is a real pain, right, in the marketplace. It's polluting everything. There'll be more fish or more plastic in the ocean than fish by 2030 or something. That's a real pain, right?
Right.
And so look for a pain or a gap, and then once if you have, and here's the thing, if you haven't found anybody in your space, then run, because if nobody's done it, then there's no money in it, right? So don't worry about, somebody's doing this already. I mean, imagine a podcast like this. What are you to say? Oh, somebody's already done it.
Right.
You know, no. If no one's done it, then think of something else.
Really?
Because you're not going to be most likely, Gutenberg inventing the printing press, kind of a thing. It's just those are revolutionary products.
Right.
The internet, cell phones. Those are revolutionary things.
Right.
And those marinated for a while.
For sure.
In the military before they actually came into the public domain. But I hear this a lot. Oh, well, there's already 4 or 5 companies like identically to mine in this space. Oh, I'm like, thank God. Oh, good. You've got something to work with.
Right.
They're making money, and people think, oh, there's somebody in the space, I can't do it. No, that means that there's money there.
Right.
Yeah.
Go, run fast, and be somebody.
Yeah.
So that research part, and then the third step is really just about the biggest risk that I have had, either building companies or investing into them, is people, right? So at the end of the day, it's always going to be about people. And so that third step is trying to build your team. Stacking, I call it just, stack the team. Who's behind you? Who's next to you? You've got to have people around you, and you don't have any money. So, and that's the premise that I want to go off, is that startups don't have any money.
Right.
And even if you did, even if you were born on third base, you've got to build your company as if you had no money.
Right.
Those sacrifices, that crying in your pillow, is what's going to get you to that next level. If you just keep throwing money at it, you'll never know how to solve it.
Right.
And when those people that you're paying, the hired guns, when they leave their solutions.
Right.
So you've got to figure it out. So the way that I talk about stacking a team is you've got to give up some equity. Okay. You got to give some shares away.
Yeah.
And the way you do it so that if somebody dips out on you at 3 or 4 or 6 months is you vest it. It's called vesting. So they might have 10% of the company, but if they're not there for a year, or a year and a half, all that equity comes back.
Gotcha.
So that way it protects you as the entrepreneur, and it makes sure that they're doing their work for the next 10,
vested
12,
interest, right?
18 months.
Right.
Yeah, vested interest. And then everybody is on an equal playing field there, right?
Right.
Okay, so I'm willing to make this sacrifice, but I'm going to own 10% of something that could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And that's the sacrifice. And that's how you pay people when you can't pay them. Right. And that's the smart way to do it. If you look at Apple, I mean, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, look for a front wheel, look for a back wheel, right? And if you're and that's a great way to partner. Also, if you have 2 back wheels, well, who's going to do most of the selling, right? You almost have to have, everybody should be selling, but if you have 2 front wheels, well, who's paying the bills?
Right.
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 Yeah.
And so there's these are just nuggets that are part of the process of how to exit.
Right.
And that's how simple it is. You know, if you can find if you're a back wheel and you find a front wheel, that's great. But don't try to match what you're doing. Like, oh, I'm doing all the work. You know, or if you're the front wheel, I'm doing all the sales. What are you doing? It all works itself out.
Right. Everybody's got their parts.
Everyone's got their parts.
Yep, for sure.
Let it marinate, and the next thing you know, the back wheel will end up doing 8 times more and complain about the front wheel. You know, all they do is go and have lunch with people.
Right.
Right. But it should be fun, and that's why the map is there, is because small businesses and startups don't fail because they don't have enough money. It's not because, and this is what they tell us, and there are statistics out there. They say startups fail because lack of timing, lack of money, lack of product fit. And I'm saying, no. You're asking the wrong question. The question is, why is it that nobody has come up with a map so that people can step by step find their compass, go right at it, and not have to worry about all these other things that and the reason why small businesses and startups fail is because there's no direction.
No direction.
I mean, imagine trying to get to a place you've never been before and you don't have a map.
Well, yeah, I mean, and how simple that is, that with everything else in life, right? Like, if you're a manager, if you're a supervisor, your parents, right? Like, there has to be some direction in everything that you go through. Why is it not with the one thing that probably needs it the most is when it comes to any type of business, right?
It's it. Entrepreneurship needs
how simple that is. That's incredible.
And so I'm lucky that there are hundreds of, or if not thousands of students that are implementing and using the map.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's just simple and it's free.
Right.
You know, it's I want, again, being from Arizona, I want Arizona to thrive and grow, and I want more startups, like you were saying. In California, they're everywhere. And there's funding in California too.
Right.
Arizona, not so. The funding goes to real estate.
Right.
And so we're a real desert when it comes to investors like myself wanting to put money into startups. And so, and here's the other thing. I don't like how some municipalities, say the city of Phoenix or any city, they put on these contests and then they pick winners and losers. And that's it. What about this company that's still marinating? Right? And yet you've not chosen them to get funding, so they're a loser.
Right.
And then they decide they're going to quit because they didn't win.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, no. You give everyone the same tools. Give them the map.
Right.
Give everyone the same tools, and then you'll see all boats rise.
Right.
And then you'll see that this company, just because they got funded, it doesn't mean that they're going to be successful.
Exactly.
They don't know what's coming next, right? So I don't like the winners and losers thing. I like, hey, here's the tools, here's the map. You run as fast as you can, and then contact me in a couple of months. Let's see where you're at.
Right.
And it also helps to defend your valuation, because when you're raising money as a startup, it's, well, what's it worth? It's Shark Tank, right?
Right.
Now, Shark Tank's a lot of great entertainment. It's not really how it's done in the real world, but they always are negotiating a percentage for a dollar amount, right?
Right.
And that's real. The give to get. Now, it's not as harsh as what you see on Shark Tank, but it is certainly the reality of it. So if you can show, and this is part of the map, if you can show where you've been, where you're at, and where you're going, that makes my job as an investor a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah. So much easier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And you can say, out of it. I'm on step 5 in between 6. And then I look, and let's say I've never even seen the map, and I'm an investor, and I'm like, oh, wow, they've gotten their infrastructure taken care of. They've done a prototype. Their vision, I love it. They've got all sorts of stuff that they've checked off, and that reduces my risk as an investor, and it also helps the startup raise money.
Right.
And your first round of money is going to be with what we call the 3 Fs: friends, family, and fools.
Right.
Your Tia Hilda or something. Your Anna is gonna, because she loves you, kind of a thing. But when it starts getting to more serious money, you need that map to be able to say, "Hey, I was here, and I'm still crying in my pillow, but not as much."
Right. Right. So cool. So let's talk about some of the things that you got going on. We were kind of talking before we started recording. Let's get into all that. You kind of mentioned Footprint. You kind of mentioned some cool things that you want to do with some hip hop. Let's get into all that.
Yeah. Now where's the beer?
Right.
Down here. Can we block that out for a second? No. So I've been really, really fortunate to help a company, and maybe this company will probably end up putting Arizona on the map. Arizona doesn't have a lot of big headquartered companies here.
Right.
You've got Knight Transportation, Big O Tire, Avnet, and a couple others. But they're not they're headquartered here, but the big companies like Intel, Microchip. Microchip might be headquartered here. I don't know, but there just aren't a lot of big companies headquarters here. And Footprint, they found a real pain in the marketplace, and they were able to solve for that, and that is replacing plastic that touches food. And they have unbelievable science behind them, and they've got they're headquartered in the East Valley. They're headquartered actually in Gilbert.
Okay.
And they have over $500 million in contracted revenue. They'll do about $50 million this year. They just got the naming rights for the Phoenix Suns Center, the Footprint Center now. And next year, when people go to a Suns or a Mercury basketball game or an event, it'll be in a compostable or biodegradable cup.
Nice.
And people think that paper cups you can recycle. There's a plastic liner in every single paper cup.
That's true. Yeah.
Every single paper
Every
cup.
single one.
So I've been really fortunate to work with Footprint. The CEO and the co-founders, Troy Swope and Yoke Chung, I think they're doing Arizona right.
Nice.
And there's already over 400 employees over there, I think. And
nice.
they've got almost 3,000, nationwide or North America, and they're expanding into Europe.
Nice.
It's a cool company.
That's very cool.
But I was thinking on my own personal, because I come up with crazy ideas. But there's a lot of financial terms out there, right? And I've been writing some lyrics, and I want somebody that knows how to rap. I grew up with rap. I grew up with Run DMC.
The
and
old school.
Old school. And so I still listen to them. And my wife's like, how many times can you hear them? I'm like, that's my generation.
Right.
Right.
So, it's my jam. What are you talking about?
Exactly. So, but I want somebody to rap my lyrics of finance and startup life. Really, it's about startup and entrepreneurship life.
Okay.
And everybody knows. Everyone's been, if you got your own gig, your mom or your sister's telling you, get a real job. Right.
For sure.
And everyone feels that pain. And you're like, no, I want to keep going this direction.
Right.
And then, you run out of money. And so then you do get a job, but it's temporary to fund your, dream. And that life is, now I'm lucky that I lived that life, but most of the people in my generation, in the 40s and 50s, they went to go work for a big company, and that was it. No side gig, and they hate their life, they hate their world,
Right.
in terms of work, and that's it. But the new generation, the younger generation, and you guys have seen and felt the pain, and have gone through the gig of entrepreneurship, and have had friends and family say, "What are you doing? Why?"
For sure.
You know, and question you and doubt you, and maybe even make fun of you. You know, and that's what I want the startup life. That's what I want the raps to be about.
Okay.
Is using terms, you know, like the margin that we have in the margins that you have in finance, you know, also are the margins that make or break us in real life.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and cash flow, and there's so many, so that's what I want. That's what
Okay.
I want people to rap about.
We have to make some phone calls.
Yeah, we'll make some
We
phone
got a
calls.
couple friends, you know. I think
Go
we got
make that happen.
I think we got a couple friends out there. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. Pretty sure we can
Sure.
make that happen.
Yep.
Well, Senior Chavez, thank you for coming by. I think you're almost at the record. I'm looking at the time right now.
It's right there, right?
It's right around
Hey,
the
I
record.
can't see nothing, so
I'm happy. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to have gotten to know you guys.
Yeah, same here.
And I hope we able to do it again sometime.
For sure.
for sure.
Thank you for the stories. Thank you for so many gems. So many gems. You guys make sure that you check this one out. Like, and if it takes you a couple days, that's fine. But don't skip anything.
Right.
Don't skip it.
Don't skip it.
Because you're gonna miss something. Okay. Don't try to get to step 5. Okay. You need to go through the steps. Get through the steps.
By the way, real quick, is there any like social media or
for
any
sure.
outlet that people can maybe reach out to you or see?
You know,
certain
LinkedIn
things?
is probably the best for me.
Okay.
Aram Chavez.
Okay.
ARAM and then Chavez.
Okay.
And just link me in, DM me, and I'll get right back to you.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm in the space. I'm in the entrepreneurship space, and I love it. So I think I have the best job in the world. I get to listen to everyone's dreams. Doesn't matter how big or small they are, and there's nothing better than that. Listening to people's dreams every day. So yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn.
Yeah. All right.
That's your only one? You got a few more. If you do, send them to us.
Yeah.
We'll
It'll
drop
be-
them down
There
there.
we go.
We'll drop them down there.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming on the show,
Yes.
man. We really do
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You guys stay safe. You guys stay positive out there.
And as always, this is The Gray Space.
Peace.